coffee time. First thing in the morning. I love my Cafe Bustelo. Well, I'm still trying to dial in OBS and learned a few things. I've actually got it set to real-time priority. This is the streaming software that I use, which is kind of notorious for occasionally dropping out. So I've set its actual CPU priority to real time, so it's like as performant as possible. Somebody on, like a YouTuber with 1 million subscribers or something, says that if you run it as administrator, that helps a lot. We shall see. I've hedged my bets though in this one way, which is that it's set up so that if it blanks out, it's going to be off for 5 or 10 seconds, right? The screen will freeze. Well, when it comes back on, it introduces a stream delay, so you actually miss nothing. You'll miss nothing. It'll still give you everything that was going on when it was disconnected. It's just that the overall stream will then be delayed by a few seconds. Probably not the end of the world. So if I'm streaming for 2 hours, the likelihood is that the delay between what you're seeing and what I'm doing will actually become increased, which means I'll be a little less responsive to the chat. Morning, Yvette. So, I basically took the day off yesterday. And so now, I'm just getting to work. Okay, so the mouth layer on this lady, well, let's maybe name our layers intelligently. So we'll call this Fala. So we're back to Fala today. And so yeah, we'll see how OBS does. It should be interesting. So far it seems to be running non-stop for several minutes. And actually when I've looked at longer streams, a couple hours long, you know, it appears that over 2 hours you would lose about 5 to 7 minutes. So what is that? It's about 5%-ish. A little less maybe. Yeah, it's in that range. So anyway, Fala needs to have, she actually, what I probably should do is just delete the mouth layer. One of the good things with Krita is you can go like this. Like I can hit the S key here. I can grab her mouth and just go Control X, Control V, and Krita sticks it in another layer for me. So now we'll just use that as our starting point for the mouth. So I don't have to redraw it and try to match what I had, because I did kind of like what I had. Then, in the Fala layer, you can actually see a little bit of a hiccup from the anti-aliasing of the selection. So then if I just go back into her layer and, well, gee, you probably want to use the correct brush. Okay. You might be wondering what the heck just happened. How is it that I could sample this color, but when I draw a lasso, I get this color? Well, it's because there's shadows turned on. The shadow layer is coloring this layer. So when I sample this color, I'm not actually sampling the underlying color. I'm sampling that color plus the shadow. So this should be, oh wait, it's still acting stupid. What is going on here? Every once in a while you bump into a problem that is just a mystery. Oh, I'm sorry, I had that paint layer still turned on. Okay, it'll work now. I feel very confident, and I was correct. Okay, so you got the shadow layer, but then there was also a tint layer. I forgot about that tint. So if you have other layers that are changing the, you know, what the viewer sees on the main layer, then obviously if you sample that, you're actually getting the sum-uppance of all those layers stacked together. Morning, Steve. Yeah, day off sometimes, that's for sure. Not too many. I mean, I don't actually take a lot of days off. Okay, so here, if I want to kind of keep this consistent, I actually need to erase her mouth throughout. And you see there, same problem again. So anyway, if you're doing lip sync, the basic rule I've learned is if you're going to be doing lip sync, um, or touching up your characters, you always want to turn off any effects layers because it just screws up the color that you're seeing. So you'll always wind up sampling colors wrongly, which is not good. Okay, so here I'm just going to go ahead and remove her mouth. Let's keep that one. Let me think about this for just a moment. Well, I guess we'll do the quintessential how do you marry bits and pieces together. Well, I'm going to grab this, Control C, Control V. So now I technically have two layers that could be arguably called mouth layers. You see here, you got a blank keyframe there. So this mouth doesn't appear until that. There is no mouth, and oh, there's a reconnect. Okay. Okay, so that's interesting. So now what has happened is OBS did disconnect and reconnect. So I'm looking at my other screen to see if it actually starts a new file, because it's saving it to disk at the same time, and it didn't. So it's basically continuing to record. So what should have happened right now, I'm going to actually I'm going to give you a peace sign, and now I'm looking at the live stream to see how long it takes for me to give that peace sign. Okay, yeah. See, and so the delay has probably increased by a few seconds. So it's not the end of the world. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is take these. So what that means for you guys watching me is that you haven't missed anything. Okay, because during the time when it was blanked out, it was still recording it into a buffer, and now the entire stream is offset by that period of time. It's actually a pretty smart system. It largely mitigates the problem of the occasional dropout. Obviously, if you're getting a lot of dropouts, it would be like, okay, that's pretty sucky. But okay, so I think if I go Control E, and then just bake down each of these layers, and then rename that mouth, then what should happen is we've got the mouth here. Okay, but it blanked out there. We can remove that keyframe, and then these other two are just baked into the mouth layer, so that fixed everything. Super de duper. Alright, so now let's turn this off, and like I said, really we want to get rid of all the mouths, because she's got a fair amount of talking she's doing, so it's kind of stupid to have her having a mouth in her head layer. So I was actually thinking this morning a bit about some of the mechanics of setting up puppet animation. And I don't know, I mean, I think this is something I'm probably going to play with before too long. Okay, let me check this. Okay. So now what we do need to do, by the way, is adapt the mouth layer to the fact that we animated her a little bit. Yeah. Boop boop. Okay, so now I think I guess we probably should put that a little closer to where it lands. I think we're in good shape. I wonder about this though. Yep, I want her mouth a little higher anyway. Actually don't like her characterization was kind of faltering slightly. So, good deal. Okay, so Generic Anime says, how many frames per second are you doing to animate this? Great question, Generic Anime. It's 8. Almost everything I do is 8 frames per second, and that is mainly an economic consideration. So, because Generic Anime is new to the party and probably isn't super familiar, well, you tell me. I won't bother with a recap if there's no need to. So you tell me, Generic Anime, are you familiar with the project I'm working on, or have you poked around and looked at recent videos so that, you know, because I don't want to waste time recapping, you know, the last, say, 20 seconds or whatever of animation if you kind of already know what's going on, right? Mm-hmm. So you tell me. Okay, so Follow's got a line of dialogue here, and she says, "Listen to me, TNR." Okay, so Yeah, I think she's going to say that here. So in the mouth layer, I'm going to hit the G key and looking for, and by the way, the mouth layer, okay, so now this is a bit of a problem. Okay, let's fix this right now. Okay, so the problem is, typically when I'm doing a mouth, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a shape. So let's say I draw a shape of a big open mouth. Well, the problem is, typically what I do is I make that shape black, and then I reduce the opacity a little bit. So we've got a little bit of a flaw here. Not super familiar. Animate shorts in your own time, so I know a little about animation. Okay, so the short recap would be, I'll just kind of say, let's see here, how much is that? Oh boy, that's 2 minutes of cartoon. So this is a pilot episode that I'm doing under the advisement of my distributor. I've got a distributor of feature films that I've written and directed and produced over the last few years, and based on a conversation with my distributor, it seemed like the time to create an animated cartoon like this was a good time for it, for a variety of reasons I won't bore you with. But the bottom line is that, so I wrote this as a 48-minute double length pilot episode to a show that would ostensibly be 12 episodes. So I mean, and then of course if it grabs, then we go on to another season or whatever, but I'm kind of seeing it as a 12 episode arc. And so it kind of centers around some kids who are about think of it being in the same genre as Avatar: The Last Airbender. You're talking about young-ish kids that are out on a quest for reasons I won't get into at this moment, but and so the pilot episode really looks at each of those characters and ultimately brings them together. Right, exactly. Brings them together, and then as the episodes go on, you've got a long-term arc within what are essentially standalone episodes. So yeah, it's an economic decision to, and if you look at Avatar, actually, speaking of Avatar, or if you look at Korra, despite the fact that there's some pretty gorgeous animation and rotoscope fight stuff and whatnot like that in Korra, if you really look at most of that show, it's all done at 8 frames a second. It's fairly choppy animation, and that's not a criticism. It's just what it is. So anyway, getting back to this, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Control M, and the first thing I want to do is take the mouth and make it pitch black. Okay. Now what you're seeing there, as far as that flaw, is the alpha. Okay, so okay, well, that doesn't quite work, Dave, because what about the flesh tone? So strike that. I guess we're not going to do that. Yeah, I'm asking for trouble doing that. So what I'm going to do, I guess this time what we'll do is we'll just try to match the color. So this, what I'm kind of fighting with here a little bit, may not make perfect sense to you guys. Hopefully it does, but okay, so I move the mouth around. I need to basically, once and for all, get rid of the mouth. Get rid of our mouth. You missed that mouth, curse it. Alright, so here we go. Get rid of the... Look, it's early, you guys. It's like 6:30 a.m. here, and I'm just getting in the groove today, okay? Just getting in the groove. Haven't quite gotten up to speed yet. So, so we'll go here, and now the question becomes, what ought the color be? All right, I'm gonna go ahead and let her. Let's see. Does she lean in? Yeah, she leans in. So, like I said, listen to me, Tia Nara. I know how you feel. So I'm going to use I need to switch to my quintessential brush. and give her one transitional frame. I'm kind of feeling like I need that to be a little darker. This brush does have a little bit of transparency built into it. Okay, so now when you hit the insert a keyframe and hit the G key. Okay, we're doing anime practice here in the sense of we're going to use the old open mouth, more open mouth, closed mouth approach. 1140, yeah, it's 640 here. Okay, meaning listen to me, TNR. Okay, that actually worked. So I'm going to take this closed mouth shape here. I guess I don't have one, so I need to insert a closed mouth shape. And let's just use this brush because then it will be, and I'm going to actually rotate the screen. Then it'll be a little denser. So I want her to be looking kindly. Alright, let's go back to the beginning and get the overall vibe here of what Fala's saying. Listen to me, TNR. I know. Okay, so she comes up, insert a key here. Actually, what we should do is animate the key that's already there. Okay, so there's a little pause. I know how you feel. Alright, so insert a key, G key, and now what do we got for color? Okay, yeah, it looks about right. I'm going to say I, and now I'm going to actually just adjust this. I, insert another key. Well, actually, let's just copy over this one, because we're going from open to more open, and I'm going to lower that a little bit. So let me just go. I know. So yeah, you could, if you're really into the phoneme thing, and actually generic anime will appreciate this too. This is another economic decision, is, you know, actually drawing accurate phonemes does not take much time. Let me get her voice. I know how you feel. And I think I'm going to put one more shape in here. So drawing proper phonemes doesn't take that much time. It isn't just a matter of lip sync accuracy, though. It's also partly a matter of style. And the other consideration with something like this is that it may well be translated into other languages, so why not do it in such a way that it's going to work no matter what language you're using, right? So, hence, and I think for anime, that's one of the reasons why they do. It's you know, it's a double win with anime, with Japanese anime. You're able to accommodate the translations very easily, and you're able to save money because you're just switching between two mouth shapes. And in this show, I'm doing it both ways, actually. It just depends on the situation. Listen to me, Fala. I know how you feel. And which she does, because she is a slave. Now, little timing. I think we've got one phoneme too many. Or okay, now actually strike that. Mainly because, remember, I'm going, listen to me, Fala, and it isn't listen to me, Fala, it's listen to me, Tianara. So, I know how you feel. Okay, I want to take this little section here. I'm just going to grab a little 3-frame segment and go remove frame and pull, and that effectively just does a ripple edit. I know how you feel. Boom. Okay, so that's the shot. Let's go back and look at what we got here in the show. So she comes into position. . And she says she brought her some clothes, and TNR is like, I don't want them. Boom. So this is the shot we're on right now. So let's go ahead and get this in here. And so for those who are about to ask, we're using Sony Vegas. I've been using Vegas for 20 years, so Sony Vegas is my editor. I've done editing. I've played around a little with HitFilm. The anime I was working on before I got into this project, which of course is an unfinished project. I stopped work on it because when I had the conversation with my distributor and we decided, look, the market is in a place where this could be a viable property. In other words, make me some money. I said, okay, let's shift gears from this anime, which was just an exploratory project, and let's create this cartoon. So I specifically refer to this as a cartoon, and the other one was, because the other one was really trying to be an anime, whereas this is a little bit more Americanized, I would say, but it's still pretty much in the anime vibe in terms of the production process and also in terms of the look. But anyway, having said that, blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. So this is shot number 367, isn't it? I think it is. Yeah, so I gotta save and render this, actually. Save that, and Control R. And so now what we're gonna do here is just change these numbers to 367 instead of 366, and resampling. Oh, there goes OBS. So OBS just had a delay, but what should have happened for you guys, okay, so it looks like OBS is back on. So what should have happened for you guys is that the screen froze for a minute, but when it started again, you didn't miss anything, which means right now, instead of being 5 seconds behind me, like when I'm talking right now, you're going to hear it, instead of 5 seconds later, you're going to hear it about 10 seconds later. And over time, that delay will get longer. But at least that makes it so if the stream does blank out for a moment, you don't actually miss anything, which I think is pretty cool. And then actually, more significantly than that, if you go watch it, if you bail out on my live stream, which I wouldn't blame you if you did, but if you bail out on my live stream and then watch it later when it's just posted as a video on YouTube, there won't be any skips. So, yeah, that's the trade-off. But then you lose the chat, right? Wait, I just made a mistake. All right, let's delete that. And now, I'm pretty sure, yeah, there goes OBS again. So I'm pretty sure that I'm going to have to re-import. Sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so 10 steps in roughly 10 seconds. So, okay, let's get the continuity here and see how things are feeling. I am Farla. I brought you some new clothes. I don't want them. Ah, we have a problem. Houston, we have a problem. Okay, I want to fix this. I seriously want to fix this right now. This right here is probably okay, but over here, her head, the fact that there's a little bit of a difference in characterization between the wide shot and the close-up, I can kind of live with that, but that change in... Now, let me say this. As an editor, there's another fix for this, because we could do a jump cut to TNR right here, which wouldn't be a horrible thing. If we went right here, if we went boom, if we did a jump cut there, because obviously the 3D turn isn't like the greatest ever. Now, what would that look like? Well, we'd actually have to jump into Krita and do some tweakage to make it work. But what we're talking about doing is, what if this shot became this shot? So we actually went to a jump cut. Okay? I don't want it, she says. Now we jump back to Fala, and the continuity problem in terms of being a little off character is fixed, actually, because you're not going to remember this slight difference. And actually, I think that jump cut looks great. Now, if we were at full res here, what would that look like? You know, she actually doesn't look too bad. I think I'm going to leave the jump cut in there as it is and see. I'll decide later if that needs to be modified, but actually I think that's a pretty good looking shot, and it buys us a little bit of a, you know, a flip here. And also the other thing we can do to fix this, because the problem is not that she's off character. She is a little off character, okay, because I decided in the close-up to tighten up what I wanted her character to look like. That's not really the problem, though. The problem is her pose is wrong. Okay, so she's in this position. Okay, here's what I think we should do. I'm actually going to make a serious editorial decision here. Here she's leaning forward. I'm going to leave the jump cut in there, but actually, watch this. Watch how we can fix this. I'm seeing a nice attitude thing right there. So I'm going to split this, and I'm going to go here. Whoops. Drag this back here, make a copy, and reverse it. Okay? So in the real world, you'll find yourself doing this kind of stuff all the time. Okay, so she's kind of going, oh, this girl's got a little bit of an attitude. Okay, and then she comes back and softens. So therefore, what we'll do is, watch this. We're going to go into the 367 folder and grab a still image and use that to just fix the edit. My bad. Like I said, dyslexia moment. I'm literally thinking in reverse to what I'm actually seeing. So then we'll extend that out just a little bit, and now what we should have will actually look pretty good. Listen to me, Tianara. I know how you feel. See, that's actually a pretty nice little bit of storytelling. That feels pretty good. And if you're, you know, if you're open to it, this is why actually, if you want to embrace the Warner Brothers discipline of planning out every frame of your animation down to the frame, which they did have to do, like with Bugs Bunny cartoons and Yosemite Sam and all the rest, because the thing had to clock in at exactly a certain time. Well, you can do that, but in practice, what I've always found with film, and obviously here with the cartoon, is that these little editorial decisions come up all the time. And you'd be amazed how often you can fix a shot by taking another shot and running it in reverse. So that's what we did here. Okay? So we've modified the prior shot by introducing a jump cut by just cropping it right there to break the continuity. And then we've also fixed this transition here and made the acting better, because now she's like a little taken aback, like, how do I deal with this girl? Listen, Tina. And then she softens, which makes a lot more sense. Now, it could be argued that if I'm going to put her in this position, maybe the jump cut isn't so necessary, but I think she's enough off character from this to this that it would be good to leave the jump cut in there. So this also, I'm going to leave this for now. I don't think this is worth crying about, but I think the audience is going to forgive this slight change in characterization from here to here, because we just met the character for the first time, and then we're kind of breaking their sense of continuity with that jump cut. So this is the real character. So the point I suppose that needs to be made is I think the point that needs to be made is that especially if you're introducing a new character, it's a lot smarter to begin with the close-up shots. Really make sure the character is what they're supposed to be, and then just shrink it down for the wide shots and go from there. So, okay, Lesson learned, point taken. Okay, so obviously 371 is going to be a modification of 367. So let's go to 368 and deal with TNR. I don't know how you feel. Okay. So I guess we will keep this one open and move forward with, let me see where we, let's go back here just a little bit. Okay, so here, you know, the size that TNR is in frame doesn't really work. And frankly, if we redo her at a little higher resolution so we can improve the acting slightly, then of course we could always go back and redo this jump cut so that it's a little higher res. So, okay. So that means what we're going to do is we're going to start from scratch. Let's do it this way. I like the storyboard drawing, so let's go back to the storyboard and drag that in. So it'd be this shot right here. And you see we've actually got two shots. So what happens is TNR is kind of like, yeah, like you know how I feel. And we hear Fala say that she was sold into slavery when she was a girl, and that makes TNR go, you know, sold? Okay, so I want to look at what goes on here in the script. This sounds like it should actually, yes. Okay, so let's put in a parenthetical off screen, because she is actually going to, we're not going to see her when she says this. Okay? So we're always thinking about our strategy here. You're on 22 minutes video. Is that a full episode complete? Not quite. Not quite. I would say, let me think about how to answer that. Okay, so what we actually have is a 48-minute episode. And I'd say right here, as far as the edit goes, we're at 46. So there's some wiggle room on the edit. But at this point in time, I have two things that I'm struggling with and arguing with a little bit, Ajax. One is that I do think I want to find a midpoint in the story, which there is a natural midpoint. It's actually right here, if I recall correctly. And the midpoint is really when Mel gets sent on the mission to deliver the letter. So it's an important point, and to break that between the first half of this double-length introductory episode would make a lot of sense. The other thing I'm fighting with a little bit in my mind as far as the story goes is, because this has been a work in progress, and it's really only been in the month of January that I've been satisfied with what I'm creating, okay? So everything from, honestly people, I would say from here forward. So from 13 minutes forward, I feel like, you know, I'm hitting the quality and the storytelling that I've really been after all along. So that creates a little bit of a problem, because we've got this first 13 minutes where there's a lot of it that's fine, but there's also some of it that I just really feel like needs to be redone. Okay, so if I'm going to do that, I'm also rethinking the introductory segment of the story. So it's a long-winded answer to your question, but the bottom line is the episode's 48 minutes. It'll probably get chopped. That lays the groundwork for the story. It's important information, but it could be told in a much better way, I think. So I'm going to open this in a new document, and I'm going to kind of do my old dupe trick, and then just sum these down so that it's darker. And I'm also going to put in, watch this, we're going to also put in this one, because I like that expression. So I'm going to drag this in here as well as a layer. And then I'm going to dupe that and sum it down so that, again, we have, so it's darker. Then I'm going to take the G key, put those two in a group, and then I'm going to grab the group, and then I'm going to, I believe it's layer, convert. Where's the convert? There it is. Convert the group to an animated layer. So now we've got these two keyframes in an animated layer. And we can go ahead and add another layer and save this. And it will also be saved as a Krita file, so that will retain all of our animation and layer information. Okay, so Helion Lintry says, I'm new here. This live stream popped up on my recommendations. That's actually pretty cool. I'm really glad to hear that because, you know, I mean, I haven't really done anything to try to expand my audience other than just keep doing what I'm doing, which is the live streaming itself. And it's cool that there's some recommendations that are starting to pop out there for people. So, again, you know, just as a quick summary for the new guy or girl, I'm not sure which that is, what we're doing is creating a cartoon that's essentially in the spirit and style of something along the lines of, say, Avatar: The Last Airbender, which is essentially an Americanized anime type approach. 8 frames per second. We have a 48-minute script, and so it's basically a double-length introductory episode to a series of which there are basically 12 episodes roughed out right now, roughed in, mapped out, whatever you want to say. Okay, so we got to get to work here. Tianara is going from that attitude to that attitude. So general rule in Krita is you pretty much want to let your character settle for 4 frames, meaning half a second, because we are operating at 8 frames a second. And so this, I just have to decide where that's going to happen. So Fala says, so she says, I've got these clothes for you, and TNR's got a little bit of an attitude. I don't want them. And by the way, I also forgot the little dot on her forehead. Okay. So Fala's like, Tianara, I know how you feel. She says, listen to me, Tianara. Okay. So here's Tianara. Let's get her drawn. So I'm going to take these layers, lower that down a little bit. And frankly, I don't think I need a pencil test. I think I can go straight to ink because, you know, I know Tianara pretty well. And so, am I going to use the pencil or the brush? Well, I think I'm going to use the pencil. I seem to be having better luck with the pencil. So let's just rock and roll and get her in here. Got a little bit of those cynical eyes going on. And I'm going to actually close that down a little bit. You want to flip your canvas frequently. I can see like this right here. Watch this. Just by flipping the canvas, I could see that little problem right there. So, and maybe, let me hit the Alt key and just stretch it a little bit. That just looks better. I mean, it looks balanced. So, boom. Control-Shift-A to undo the selection, and then the B key once again to just get in here and, nope, that sucked. That was bad. There we go. Okay, looking up there. Okay, good. Glad you like it. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be quite a lot of, I'm hitting GE, by the way, so I can erase. Yep, well, I started live streaming this stuff or posting videos about it because when I started working on an anime-ish project, I really couldn't find anyone doing what I'm doing on YouTube. So I figured, oh, well, screw it. I'll do it myself. That's pretty much what happened. And that was, frankly, that was about 2 years ago because I was working on this anime thing for quite a few months. Okay, there is, I'm going to redo this line. And frankly, I should probably cull the content of my YouTube channel because I feel like there's a lot of stuff from many months ago that really wasn't very good in terms of what I was putting out and or the quality of you know, even the instruction, if you want to call it that. I want to loosen up a little bit here. That's better. There we go. So this is actually precisely why I tend to do fill operations with the freehand path tool more than the fill tool, because frankly, if you're going to do the ink the way I want to for this particular show, you're going to have leaks, because the leaks are almost part of the look, you know, because I'm doing the ink like this, you know, I'm not trying to make long flowing consistent lines necessarily. And you know, so it's got a sketchy quality that looks pretty. So usually what I'll do is I'll take the freehand path tool, and for the color I'll just patch the holes that I can see, and then like that is not off character, but yet this is. So that's it's pretty. I guess that's because of the way our faces recognize other people's faces. You don't have to be off by very much at all for it to look wrong, for it to not look like the same person. That's better. Yeah, I put her about there. So, yeah, eyes were just a little too high. Okay, checking the costume. Okay, yeah, she's just wearing that kind of blue. Looks like I'm about to sneeze. I have just sneezed in public. I can't believe it. I've sneezed in front of the entire world. Helion Lintry and Generic Anime are both new to my live stream, I'm pretty sure. So that's cool. I'm always happy to be seeing new people coming around, saying, hey man, what's this guy doing? What's this guy up to? Causing trouble. Causing trouble, no doubt. Okay, so I'm going to kind of give her a little bit of an attitude here for sure. And that makes her shoulders really too wide. Let's just let gravity do its thing and say, well, actually this would be more straight down. And then, there we go. So yeah, she's going to be kind of wearing the old headdress deal. And again, I still want to say I don't quite like the age here. I'm going to lower that and then redo the hair. So, hey, like I said, folks, it's early in the morning. We're still getting, whoops, need to have it hit the E key so that we're erasing. Still getting in the groove this morning, still finding our way a bit. And I want to look at this jump cut. Okay, yeah, see, her hair was really not coming through, but that's okay. For her, I can let the hair sneak in. I guess I probably should just take a look back here at my continuity a little bit. Because really, yeah, back here it was basically just kind of peeking through. So let me check this, though. Yeah, this really needs to come down over on her head. Now, you might wonder why these changes in continuity all of a sudden, or you know, what's the problem here, Dave? And the problem is that the storyboard was done a pretty long time ago. And so there's a little bit of a disconnect between what's on the storyboard and the most recent things I've actually put in the show. So this is probably a little closer to, golly, that seems heavy though. Darn it. Don't like that. Maybe I should have done a pencil test. Gotten the sketch. What I'm trying to do right now is just kind of really see it in my head. Okay, so I'm going to go boom, boom. right about there. Let's I think I'm just gonna do this with the brush. I am actually changing my mind a bit. Okay. No. Ajax, no, no, no. That gets into a whole discussion, actually. Essentially, with Krita, you're stuck with frame by frame animation. So if you really want motion tweens, you know, you can get into the whole Blender versus OpenToonz argument, which a lot of people do. My opinion is just have Tahoma open, and if you really need the motion tweens, then just cut and paste your art from Krita into Tahoma, and then you've got motion tweens, you've got the plastic tool, everything's right there for you. So that's my advice. Okay, let me get back here and look at the acting a bit. Okay, I'm gonna, oh come on, we don't want to be in erase mode. Oh, that's pretty good. Okay. Boom, right there. I want another tween there. Now this is going to be an interesting one because I'm actually going to do, let's do a double tween and turn her away. So watch how this is going to happen. Now the truth of the matter is, what I probably should do is color her in right now, because we're getting into stuff where Ajax, at this point, I really don't care whether they add it or not, because I would prefer it, but it is so easy to cut and paste your art into Tahoma that essentially they work together pretty much seamlessly. You know, I just tend to say, Krita's a much stronger paint program. You know, in terms of what you can do, it's just way, way stronger as a paint program. But every single thing you could possibly want to do, you can do in Tahoma or OpenToonz, whatever you want to call it. I use the Tahoma fork of OpenToonz only because it lets you cut and paste. That's the only reason I use Tahoma. Otherwise, it'd be OpenToonz. That's what I used for the last couple of years. As far as the visual quality, basically the set of tools, if you want to do animation, for most people, the best place to start would be OpenToonz, I believe, because it's pretty much the most well-rounded solution. But I just like working in Krita. And as far as tweens go, actually, let me show you this. This is a great example of what I'm talking about. Okay, so you've got to get her to turn her head. Okay, so let's watch this. All right, let's start the clock. It's 7:17. Ready? Now let's pretend she was already colored in. Okay? Let's mirror horizontal, so she's turning away. I'm going to do a little bit of a shift there. I'm going to line that up. Now I'm going to hit GE and erase that. Okay, Control Shift A so that nothing's selected. Grab my brush and don't want to be in erase mode now. And boom. Okay, so now I've got the turn of the head. All right. So that's not exactly a motion tween, but we could do it. We could put in a slow out here by just going two ways. We could grab it, we could make the selection and move it a little bit, or we could just use the liquify tool and squish things around a bit. I'll do it this way this time. So I'm just going to kind of just move that a little bit. Okay, because I want to do the slow out sort of thing. Okay, so now this might, I can't always guarantee it's going to work perfectly, but okay, but that one frame tween pretty much sells the idea, and then if you wanted to take it even further, you could go back one frame. You could do an anticipation, okay? And we're going to get into the realm here where you really would rather be working at 12 frames a second because everything happens a little bit too slowly. But let's say she moves back before she moves into it. And not only that, but let's also give her a slow in. So here, we'll duplicate this frame. This is pretty much, I should probably I should sell a course is what I should do on the principles of animation because, okay, and so now we're going to do a slow out where we're going to get, I'm sorry, a slow in. We're moving into the new motion. And when she turns around, we could liquefy her and just give her a little bit of a squash. Okay? So now there's a little jerk there at the end, and I don't like that. So I'm going to just take that key out. And then, again, with the free transform, go ahead and let's just get her to where she's going to be. Okay? And again, I don't like that little drop. Let's do this again. Let me do this again. Now, if you're using your software that has all the magical tweening done for you, it would probably be faster unless the software doesn't quite get it right. And in my experience, the software gets it wrong a lot of the time. Not always, but a lot of the time. So if you really wanted to tween this thing, and we set this to 12 frames a second, so now we're working more at a pace. You guys that are like, if you're after the Disney thing, right? Then you probably want something like this, see? Because now you've got the anticipation, you've got the squash and stretch, it's all there. And none of it's hard to do. It's all pretty easy. And we got this complete turn of the head by simply flipping it, right? But again, for this show, normally we don't want all the extra steps. And truthfully, for what we just did, the anticipation is too much. It's just too much moving around. That works. So we've just got a slow out, just a tiny tweak out from our start position, and then boom, just snap to the landing position, and it works. So you guys may have a different opinion, but that's what I seem to see working quite well. So believe me, I understand anticipation and squash and stretch. It's just it just makes everything take too long and doesn't necessarily even look better. So anyway, that's what TNR is supposed to do, and I actually like the way the flip caused her eyes to go back in the other direction. So her pupils almost landed in the same place, which is kind of accurate because when you turn your head, look what your eyes are going to do. You're going to keep your focus on whatever you're looking at. So, that's just a little bit of sort of theory for those of you that are really into the animation thing. And also, I think if I'm watching somebody like what you're seeing right here, you're watching this, you may wonder, I know I would, you wonder if, well, yeah, but, can they do the Disney thing? Can they do the real animation? Well, the problem with the Disney thing, by the way, is that it's generally not that economical to do anymore. Unless you're going to do it in a puppet animation style, in which case you probably would want to be using Tahoma. Rather than Krita, I should think, because it's pretty easy to rig up a character. And then, of course, there's going to be people out there that are going to say, no, you should be using Blender. And they're, I actually at this point, if when you say Blender, if you mean taking image assets and then setting up a rig where you're probably taking a drawing, mapping it to a plane, and then doing shape keys and bone rigging and stuff, then I would agree Blender's great. If you're talking about the grease pencil, I'm going to stick to what I've been saying for months, which is that the Blender 2.9 grease pencil is really not, um, even though there are really cool things being done with it, not a lot, frankly, but there are cool things being done with it. Basically, it's not really ready for prime time as a serious, I shouldn't say serious, that sounds like too much hubris, um, as a reliable and practical primary 2D animation tool. For me, I've tried it. I tried it this week. I tried it in the last video or two that I've done. Um, and it's backfired every time. It just, you wind up spending literally many times as much time to get the same result. So I'm taking really quite a bit longer with this than I normally would as well, because I'm kind of talking about the process. But so looks like my stupid little webcam thingy dingy is not aiming properly. Okay. So now I want to look at, so all we really have is Tianara scoffs derisively. Derision is not a very good characteristic. So yeah, so she's going to turn away, go, okay, so let's take this and move it back here, maybe to around 6 or 7. Okay, don't like that. Final, and now that she's flipped, I'm also seeing a problem with this positioning. So we might as well see if we can tighten it up. We get a little bit of latitude from the fact that she really wasn't in the starting position very long. Little bit. Not necessarily a ton. Okay, let me think about this for a minute. Yeah, let's go Disney on this. I'm not going to jump it up to 12 frames a second, but let's go Disney on this. I think we should. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Watch this. Okay, first thing we're going to do is go ahead and close up that expression. And then I want to go, I want to change this. Let me go ahead and just add another key here, and then I'll probably wind up chopping something out. But I want to really just get rid of this and redraw it. This doesn't need to be in here at this point. Let me see. So we're definitely spitballing, but I think this will be better. So let's grab the, in fact, I'm going to get rid of this because that's creating such a strong center point that's actually probably in the wrong position. It's like not quite right, that it's confusing things. I don't want the distraction. I just want to see if this works. Okay, and her eyes are too far up on her head. And then this is going to be, okay, I got to do a tween. I got to do this. I got to do this a different way, I think. Because this could be so good, and it's just not right now. So I'm going to blow off the ink for a minute and come back to the pencil test here and check some things. Because I just feel like this is one of those quintessential examples where the characterization and the attitude in the storyboard was really spot on, in my opinion, for what I was looking for, and we've kind of lost it. So hey, you know, stuff happens. It happens. All right, and here's what we're gonna do. I'm just gonna insert a key, and I'm not gonna onion skin this. I'm gonna just do this the old school way. Okay. I mean, I guess probably people that are like really into animation, this is actually probably what they are here to see, truthfully. It's like somebody just doing the old hardcore, as I say, Disney style. Okay, so the curve is here, the arc is there, so let's move it to there, and then here on this key, let's insert another key, and then we're going to have a landing position. So I might as well insert all four right now. And I always reserve the right to have this not work, but I think it's going to work. Okay. Okay, this is the important thing. Her eyes here. I always say work from the known to the unknown. So what I know is actually where I want her pupils to go. I want her to roll her eyes. So I need to put this line in here too, so I get this contour. I want to get them. I want things to be kind of measured right. And if they're measured right, I can probably nail the. Okay, so there is obviously a bit of a squash and stretch type of situation. Okay. All right, so here's the. Okay, this is going to be. Okay, so from her eye line, we've got a little bit of a concave, then a convex. So you know, a C and an S. When you're trying to draw cartoons, a lot of times it's really good to, instead of trying to draw straight lines, which is what I would tend to favor if I was doing like portraiture or wildlife painting, because I'm trying to measure. Morning, Amar. But with cartooning, a lot of times I find to sort of get to what you're trying to get to, it's often easier if you draw C's and S's. So a C and S, a curve. So a character becomes oftentimes a combination of, you know, like an outward. Okay, really? Where's my? Oh, geez, how did my color get switched? You know, here's a curve, and then an inward sweep, and then, you know, if you look at the character of, I'm thinking of whoever the guy in The Little Mermaid who was the Eric's, the guy that sort of looked after Eric is who I'm sort of thinking of. You know, everything's about these curves, right? So if you really are looking for that sort of characterization, it's easier to do, I find. Others may differ, but it's easier if you allow these sweeps, right? Sweeps, curve, sweep, curve. It's either in or it's out. And then it's interesting because sometimes you try it both ways and you figure out what your character's supposed to be, and they sort of emerge. And it's really crazy how easy it is to arrive at pretty good characterization if you do the sweeping thing. I don't know why it works, to tell you the truth, but it does. You know, sweep up, curve back this way, open out like that. You know, everything's like a sweeping motion. And when things don't work, a lot of times you fix them by just reversing the arc, because this gives a completely different feel to the character than this does. You know, this versus this. So I don't know, I find that kind of interesting. You don't know how useful it is, but hey, we're all here to have fun. So going from the known to the unknown, I know where the bottom of her chin's supposed to be. I don't want to be in erase mode, stupid. Don't be in erase mode, stupid. There's your bottom of your chin. bottom of the chin, and it's going to land down here. Okay, so about the curves. See, with TNR, it's a little tricky because what you really have is a slight outward plus a slight inward. Well, I guess since I'm drawing right-handed, it's the opposite, but that's a dyslexia moment. So it's a slight inward with a slight outward and then a bigger outward, but a very, very shallow curve. But definitely this curvature is absolutely essential to her looking like her. If you don't get that right, she doesn't look like herself. And I've bumped into that more times than I can shake a stick at. So, way more times. So here, in, out. And by the way, once it's like programming in a way. Once you learn the algorithm, you can usually reproduce it more easily. So here's her eye line. Well, the cheek, so I think it should be a little round, little, whoop, there we go. This feels like it's pressing out just a little too far, so I'm just gonna make a little edit there. Little edit. Okay. And like I said, I always reserve the right to have this go very, very, very wrong, but I think we're going to be okay here. Okay, I want to zoom out a little bit, and let's flip it. So she's going to roll her eyes, so probably this pupil, and I don't know if this will work because this is stepping a little bit outside of the sort of limitations stylistically that are generally what I've been going for with this show. But whatever. I mean, I'm just kind of thinking that the roll of the eyes will be a good touch, so we'll see. Boom, boom. And I would want the pupils to go way over like this. And then she's going to actually be kind of like, I think she's going to actually rest her hand on her cheek. So let's say it would be something like this, you know, like she's, oh brother, here we go. Everybody thinks they sympathize with me. It's so stupid. They don't know what it's about. So flip it back. I'm sorry. Flip it back. I know where I've seen this. I saw this is what Ariel did. It seems to me when Ariel was with Flounder flopping around, there was some situation where she kind of went, you know, like that. She kind of turns her head and blows. It was something like that. I don't remember exactly what it was, but okay. So let me just. I'm gonna skip that one. Because we're really in dangerous territory with her eyes. If we get this wrong, then everything kind of goes the way of the buffalo in a hurry. The way of the buffalo, meaning it all goes to pot. Extinct. And hence, that's why I keep flipping. Because I am just amazed at how my proclivity to get off character is so bad. I have to really, really guard against it. And I fail, you know, plenty often. And that's why I always give those little disclaimers that, yeah, see right there, it's the same thing. I mean, her cheek, it's like It's not even close, actually. I mean, it's not even close. That needs to come in more. It's like trying to find the shape. This is where somebody out there is going to be going like, well, why don't you just use a vector tool so you can just edit it? Well, you can. You can edit it this way too. Okay, that's probably getting better. Have we got a scale problem? I don't think so. I think we're actually okay. So, boom, boom. So this is way, way, way more, this is just me kind of pandering to the person in myself and or the person out there who wants to see the sort of, as I say, the sort of Disney style thing. Because we could probably, and I usually do, convey the same emotion and the same, you know, attitude much, much, much more economically. So if she was going to roll her eyes, I would assume that her irises would be sort of, you know, the pupils would be pressing to the center in a bit of a cross-eyed thing. So, and that's not right. I actually have never drawn somebody rolling their eyes, so I think that, yeah, her eyes have to really actually press against the top of the eye shape. This is a real stretch for TNR. I mean, I think we have to put in her, like her eyelashes, just otherwise we really lose the character. Now this goes by really fast, so it might not matter, right? So you guys can see what I'm trying to do here. It's starting to come out. It's starting to emerge. And I want her to still have a vibe of annoyance as her eyes roll. So this is actually not bad. I will say, I actually think this is kind of sort of succeeding. I'm going to put her ear in there, even though it's going to be covered by the garment, just because it provides me with a little bit more of a guide for where things are supposed to be. Okay. Yeah, not horrible. And I'm going to say, let's just take this key out. That's going to be, it's pretty easy to redraw that attitude. And what I want to do is just animate it down a little bit like that. And then we'll just put in the hand coming up. And like I said, there it is. Not horrible, actually. I'm actually kind of shocked that it came out as well as it did. Wow. I guess you are an animator. Okay. Let's see how it feels. Okay. Boom. Well, and this is, you can see here one of the problems with this too is that at 8 frames a second, and this is why usually I go for more economical acting, is that to really sell it, to really sell what I'm trying to sell here, I need to spread this out, which suggests that maybe more tweens are required. This actually is a tween to this. So you've got boom, boom, boom. Which really suggests a lot of things, actually. Like, for example, maybe what you really want here is a bit of a lift. Okay, I'm just going to keep playing with this because I'm having fun doing it. This is probably not the most productive in terms of getting a lot of show done today, but what would actually take place here, yeah, is the shoulders would come up. I guess, again, this is me maybe proving to myself that I can do the more kind of detailed, and I keep saying Disney, the Disney thing. Let me just see if that works. I don't know if that'll work, but it might. So it's like, yeah, I don't think the eyes would be doing that. I think what would actually happen is the eyes would be just going down. So I'm just hitting GE to do a lasso. Style erase with the freehand path tool. And just because I'm fiddling here, I'm going to go ahead and let her annoyance grow a little bit. So let's just get the overall curve in there, like so. And I'm going to actually bring this back here. I think the shoulders would come up a little bit, but let's just say, let's pull the head up a little bit and a little bit of a turn. Boom, boom, boom. Hmm. See, that works. That doesn't work because it's too straight down. This is why flipping is so good. Flipping's the way to go. Let me just undo that and get a proper. Actually, I don't need any selection. No selection is the answer. Flip, 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 flip. So hit the A key, and I want to angle this over more. Flip, 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 and maybe here. Yes, there we go. That works. That works. That works. So if it works from one to the other, then it probably works throughout the whole continuity. Yeah, you need to hit the E key if you want to erase with the freehand path tool. Alright, so I'm going to hit this, and a little bit of a, just a little mod on the acting. Like, oh, here we go. Okay. Alright, let's just play with the... Alright, this has really got to be like this. So let's just get that in there. Boom. We can maybe allow that to go from an out to an in arc. That's fine. So I made the strategic error yesterday of watching The Princess and the Frog. OMG. Horrible movie. The animation's good. The crocodile character's pretty entertainingly animated, but golly, holy cow, did they miss the mark on that movie. Terrible script. Terrible. Nothing close to what they accomplished with, you know, Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Mulan, Pocahontas. You know, Princess and the Frog was just lame. It reminded me of watching Anastasia. You know, it's like really good execution as far as the visual quality, but the script needed at least a few more drafts. And the music was pretty awful too. I mean, compared to, I mean, I shouldn't say that. The music was good, but it just wasn't at the level you get from an Alan Menken. Musically, probably it was okay, but lyrically, not even close. But, yeah, you get what you get. Lyrically, not even close. Because she can't have the restaurant until she has the building. So it's like, that's not that big of a problem to where you're like really, you know, your heart's just really going out to her because she wants to buy a building and she can't. I don't know. I don't know if I'm buying that one. So can we get away with this? I don't know. And of course, the quintessential flaw is when all the characters are unlikable. So the girl was pretty likable. I can't even remember her name. That's crazy. I cannot even remember her name. She was pretty likable, but the frog wasn't. The bad guy was, I don't know, it was all just pretty shallow writing where they really didn't quite understand their characters' motivations and what makes them tick. I think. It's all opinion, of course. Others may disagree, and they are welcome to. Let's put that hairline a little higher, and then of course we got to have the wing dinger, but that's too low. I will be the first to admit that her wing dinger tends to crawl around on her head. She has a mobile wing dinger. Oh my. Okay. I feel like this would be, you know, we're into Little Red Riding Hood territory here. So I'm trying to employ that technique I just mentioned where you, this kind of sweeping action that kind of sort of works. So I'll go boom, straighten that out. Curve in, then out. Okay. Okay, hold on a second. Boom. That's going to be a, there's definitely a twist to that. So the more you do this animation stuff, the more you go back and you look at the Disney movies and you actually start to see flaws. You know, so it's really easy to talk about it and probably sound really critical. You know, there's a lot of really good work there, but if you look closely, there's also a lot of you can just kind of see sometimes where they took shortcuts and whatnot. Yeah, I think it is Tiana. It's Tiana or something like that. Which is a little weird considering this character's name is Tianara. Believe me, I didn't steal that. That was just a name I made up that felt like it kind of sort of might fit the era of the show. Okay. So I'm really trying to, like I said, I'm really trying to go down the Disney road here in terms of the way I'm thinking about the motion. Like, but again, it's fun and it's definitely educational. So there's her shoulder. Well, if she crunches up this way, maybe her shoulder would come in slightly, and that would cause a bit of a wrinkle there. But now here, her shoulders would sort of flatten out a bit. And now she's going to come around like this, right? So let's just keep following this through. If we've got a wrinkle here, which we would have, then that's going to open up a little bit. That's way too much to see. That's once you start, and this is a good exercise for you guys if you want to do animation. I mean, what you find is that something that kind of looked like it was working well, you start moving things around and you realize it's not working as well as you thought it was because you don't see the relationships between the shapes until you start getting some keys drawn in there. So I'm going to let that stretch a bit. Stretch. It's really it's a bit of a curse for me because I have been feeding on ever since I got Disney Plus. I went ahead and I buckled and signed up a couple weeks ago, right? So I'm kind of going through and looking at all the classic Disney movies, and um, oh, shut up, Steve. No, but like I said, it's a really good study, really good to to learn. And I really like I like this, the look of when you're flipping back and forth, what you what you learn from that. Like that might be a little bit of a crunch like that. And then she would lean into it. Now, again, here we see the problem with her cloak is that her cloak really doesn't actually look like this. This is basically correct, and going forward it's not. So I need to fix that. But that's going to be easy to fix. This is just a tween motion, so here's where it goes wrong. So let's just go like that and just take those out. And we need to thin this out a bit. Oh, I got the sarcasm. Believe me, I got the sarcasm. I got the sarcasm, buddy. I know what's going on. Okay, yeah, I see what the problem is. I see what the problem is. I need to, there's something I need to correct here over time. A little bit carefully. I'm going to have to make some changes here. Okay, because the basic problem is that here you got this, it's turning into a hoodie where it's not a hoodie. It's a head covering, right? So this is just, call me an amateur because I'm really botching this. I think maybe the secret here might be to allow it to more closely conform to the actual size of her head. Yeah, that looks right. This is the way it actually should look. Now you can have this coming out here, and we don't have to have a ton of hair sticking out, but you know, it's a head covering. I don't know what they call that. There's probably a name for it. You know, it's like all the pictures of all the Christmas pictures of Mary and Joseph kind of thing, you know, are always this type of a head covering. That's what I'm referring to. And that is a one frame tween, so I guess what we could do is, let's just erase that. And it'll be fun to see how the motion looks. Let's just make that kind of a blocked in hand. We don't have to necessarily. And then of course, if you really want to take it even further, you would do the following, I think. Number one, I would take this, push it in a little bit more, and then I would take this and pull it out a little more so it's squishing up against her like that. Boom, boom, blop. And again, this level of subtlety, which didn't quite work, by the way, because there'd be a whole, I mean, you're getting into a whole bunch of stuff that I never do for this show because it just winds up taking too much time to just to get 1 second of animation done, right? You would want to have, like, if that happened, you would really want to have a whole reaction to it, you know? Now you're into, well, there'd be this really slight, you know, twist, maybe. See, that sold better. That sold better. But again, it would probably look better, all of it, at 12 frames a second, I suspect. Boom, boom, boom. But then now all of the action's happening too quickly, right? It's all just being mushed into too small a space at a time. So this is You know, it's interesting. Okay, so this is happening way too early. It's just like stupidly too early. So now one of the other problems you have with this is that for me, a shawl. Thank you. Yeah, that's probably what it is. Yeah, a shawl. Yeah, there you go. The other challenge here is that for me as a director, I see all this acting, and when you have a simple, I mean, the simple motion is just that TNR looks away. So she's like this, and she's kind of going like that. So I don't want to hear it. Okay, so that turns into a roll of an eyes, right? And that turns into, you know, taking a moment to consider it, like, right? And the thing is, so for me, the acting keeps expanding. Well, that's a little dangerous. I mean, you know, at some point, it actually flips to where it becomes boring for the audience. It's like, okay, yeah, really, we don't need to like sit here and watch this person emote for 25 minutes. So in that sense, I will tell you something. In that sense, 8 frames per second animation, one of the reasons I do like it is because it's like poetry. I mean, what is poetry really? Poetry is like, as a writer, what you're doing is you're taking the idea that you're trying to express, and now how can I concisely, you might be rhyming, but poetry doesn't necessarily have to rhyme, but the common thread with poetry is you're trying to compact the message you're trying to convey into the most concise, you know, it's almost like how few words can I use to clearly state the idea. And then sometimes, of course, you don't state it very clearly, and then you claim that the whole idea is to let the reader bring their own meaning to it, which I think is a bit of a crock, you know, because that's just because you didn't do a good job of concisely packing your idea into a smaller space. But it's what you face, you know, whenever you're doing like songwriting or anything like that. You're always looking for how you can use language to pack a lot of emotion into a really small space. Okay, so from that standpoint, what doesn't work here, because it almost calls for the Disney treatment, is the roll of the eyes. Okay, so let's look at what Fala's doing again. You know, Fala's, and actually contrast it with Fala, because she's doing a fair amount of emoting right here in a very limited space of well, okay, there's a lot of body language and emotion that goes on here, but yet it was done with only 2 drawings. And then a little bit of it, I reversed the sequence and this and that. So it's like, well, okay, freaking shy. Just to let Fala sit there and think? Tianara, listen to me. I know how you feel. You know, and at the end of the day, that will probably get cut down. But here we're trying to do the same thing here in a different way. So, and again, this is the difference between the Disney thing and what I consider to be very creative limited animation. Because I'm trying to do it with a bunch of drawings. And what I find pretty consistently is I can accomplish the same emotion without all the drawings. You know, usually there's a little bit of action with the eyes and a little bit of action with the eyebrows. And that's normally all it takes. It's really amazing how dense you can make animation with only a couple drawings. So the roll of the eyes isn't quite working. Okay, let me show you how I would fix that. So let's just say we're going to take this out. Well, what would you do to make this more dense and more grab the emotion that we get with the roll of the eyes? What I would do is I would have her squint here. So this shot actually really wants a squint, because it's like a suspicious thing. Really? She's saying. Really? Now you're going to give me grief too by telling me what it's about? Now we'll take this out and see what happens. And we'll pack this closer. Yeah, it all happens too fast, but... And I wouldn't necessarily say it's better either. It might be better. It might be as good. What you need is probably a... So how do you do with the mouth? I'm not really sure about that one. Let's get rid of those two mouths and see what we can do with it. Oh, that's not actually too bad. So this might need, wasn't it? You guys remember that? She kind of goes, and then her hair goes, her hair flipped out of the way. Yeah. Boom. Yeah. So actually this is way more concise, and I don't know that the roll of the eyes helped that much. So now this drawing won't work unless it's reversed. So I'm just going to do that right now. I'm going to mirror that horizontally. And then get this kind of sort of in a similar position to what the other one was. Sorry. Boom. Boom. We'll make this a little bigger. Boom. Boom. Okay, so she's going to come up. Let's get this out of here. This comes later, but I want to see if I can kind of map in her reaction. Boom. Okay, so this is going to, I keep saying boom. Yeah, I know, I keep saying boom. All right, I'm going to liquefy this. I'm going to give her a little bit of an up. Little bit of an up. This is going to be a two frame key. And then obviously we got a little bit of a change in characters. Mainly the eyes, the fact that she's got the light irises there. We can get from this to this though. The change in color also is pretty distracting. So let's just deal with it. Let's deal with it, people. Morning, Valerie. My lovely Valerie. Just got up. Might be heading back to bed though, actually. Okay, and then let's just flip it and see what we've got here in terms of balance. So I think it's important to go back and fix these eyes. Because, I mean, she's got these really pretty green eyes, and it does affect your perception of her as a character if you don't have the light irises going on. So that one's probably okay. And then here we need to fix it again. No biggie. No biggie. We'll fix it. Give her teensy weensy pupils. Okay, so I'm choosing that expression right there. That's what Ariel did in The Little Mermaid when she did that same kind of a thing. So she's gonna go And she's going to kind of whip around. Boom. Yeah. And actually, I think her shoulder's probably... Yeah, not too bad, actually. Not too bad. Dirt says hi, LOL. Hey, Dirt. What's going on, Dirt? GE. So, okay, I didn't... Apparently the E key didn't register. Did not register, so... I'm going to go here. I'm going to just hit the E key and... So she's a little bit of a pining look, so I really want her eyes to be way off in the corner anyway. Like that. Okay, so this is the tween. Let's just fix her eyes since we said we were going to do that. Okay, little bit of size here required, I guess. With the shawl, thank you very much, Steve Riggs, for your very important help. And now we got rid of the eye roll, but frankly, I think the motion is a little more concise. Let me just feel this timing here a little bit. And obviously TNR's face needs some serious freaking work in that shot. Darn it. Okay. Alright. So she says, I was sold into slavery when I was just a girl. Boom. So it's actually about here. I was sold into slavery when I was a girl. Okay, that's way off. Yeah, see again, we're getting into Disney territory here. Really, she would be like, There'd be a 2-beat reaction. And this, as a standalone storyboard, isn't too bad. This is probably, we probably should just put in another tween here. Let me erase her face and see if I can get it. But this is what I think I'm learning today, or what I'm kind of maybe demonstrating, is that this is really in sharp contrast to my normal way of working. And what I see is that you almost always can solve your storytelling problems with animation, or you can solve that. Ugh, I can't talk. In anime, what tends to be favored is a very distinct focus on the still images. It's really all about the storyboard, and this image works well as a storyboard, but it's not working so well going from this motion into it because it's too much of an abrupt change. And so then that calls for more tweens. And so everything you're doing, if your focus is on using movement to convey emotion, what you're finding, and I have found many times, and am finding again this morning, is what happens is you wind up needing more and more movement, because now you're trying to get from here to there. And once you get on the road of using movement as your solution, you wind up needing a lot of it. And it's creative because you're thinking of new ways to add more character and transition and attitude. The problem is it's enormously expensive. I mean, it's expensive in terms of the time it takes, and you see. Whereas if we actually to approach it more from an anime mentality, all we care about is that shot because we know that's got a nice attitude to it. So then what we would do is we would simply modify this shot. And again, we're a little off character, obviously, partly because of the way her face is sort of distended and partly because of the position of her eyes. Her eyes are too high on her head right here, right? So I'm too busy thinking about the drawing, and then as a result of thinking about the drawing, I'm making a gross problem with the characterization. And that's not going to fix it. Well, I bump into this kind of stuff all the time. So in terms of the quality of the work, I have found consistently that when I'm squarely focused on the drawings, the art, the still attitudes, and then work out from there with some motion, I tend to get much better results. So for me, this would be a shot that probably, I mean, if I want to not take forever, what I really should do here is, you know, we'll kind of roll with this one. But this is really a separate shot. And this is what I was saying about Disney, about the thing about it that you can criticize. If you go through a Disney film and you start really looking carefully at how often they go off character, this is what I was trying to say earlier. They go off character a freaking lot, but they never land there. They never land off character. And so while the character's kind of moving around, you're going, whoa, man, that doesn't even look like, you know, whoever the character is. But the shots that really matter are spot on. So I was kind of surprised by how much I saw that drifting around. Okay, so how did we botch this so badly? Well, number one, by redrawing the eyes, we sort of were asking for trouble. So, and that is a squashed and stretched pose. So part of the problem with this one, this is the kind of thing I can't believe I missed this, but the problem with this shot right here is that this is a stretched character. This is what it was supposed to be. The stretch was just for one pose, and now we see it pop up in a completely stupid way. So bottom line is we might want to just consider taking that pose out completely. That looks okay. Okay, so now it's just this inquisitive thing. I don't know. I have to say, for me, I do like the oh, come on, Krita. I thought I hit the E key. I like the more concise approach. I find that when I get bogged down in trying to tell the story with motion instead of with poses, if you want to put it that way, not only does it not work that well, but it's not really very much fun. To tell you the truth, it's really not that much fun. Okay, so this pose actually belongs here. And then we're just going to go to this. So it's probably a little too early there, but this is okay. So Fauna says her line. She's like, okay, that's a little too late. Okay, so this shot doesn't actually fit at all, even though it's a really cool expression, but it really does not fit the scene very well. So lots of lessons we're learning today. Lots of lessons. Always more to learn. And I was thinking that, whoops, did I mean to have that? I did not. I was on the wrong frame. I'm just going to put this here. When I went to this shot, I think Yeah, I think I wanted to raise her eyebrow back up. So this is like, hmm? Like like Fala got her attention when she mentioned having been sold into slavery as a young girl, right? And this is a little bit silly. Why is her cheek? I can't believe I just did that. Oh, I guess I didn't. I thought I did. Okay, that's okay. This is not making any sense at all, people. What are you guys letting me do this for? Oh my god, I just did it again. I didn't hit the E key apparently. I thought I did, but I didn't. So, well, this is a good exercise and a good lesson this morning. This is what what makes this hard is what always happens when I try to do too much with emoting with is not appropriate, and that's too much. Again, I hit GE, but the E didn't take. 'Cause you read better. So, yeah, as you can see, it becomes a bit laborious. A bit laborious, people. But this part of it is fun. It is fun to do the flipping back and forth and sort of see the movement unfold. Okay, it seems like there's a change in volume there, so let's just take that line out. Okay. Okay, so now, if you're going to go with this type of approach where you're doing this real crisp, boom, bam. Okay, what you can do then is do these slow out tweens that help smooth out the motion a little bit, but don't necessarily make it feel like you've extended the motion. Okay, you can see this little bit of a, and this might not work, but I'm going to try it. The old one frame tween that's just going to be a little bit of a transition. Little bit of a transition. Hmm? 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 Okay. Just so it's not so distracting, I'm going to go ahead and take this out, because that's really making it look pretty strange. Okay. See that? That actually looks fine. You can slow the motion down a little bit. Here we've got boom, boom. So do we want a slow out here? Well, probably not. To get from this to this would almost require another drawing. And plus we've got a two frame transition there anyway. So I'd say we're snapping to a slow in. So we're doing a slow out there and then a slow in there. And it works. Maybe this other eyebrow should be up. it's not a cynical look. It's actually quite a softened look. So I would say let's get rid of this. Oh, come on. How many times has that happened, like, in the last 5 minutes? That needs to be raw, by the way. I'm going to take that out. Okay, I just want to go... Okay, and I'll just go to this next cell just to see if I can kind of fix her eyes a little bit. This is totally experimental. I'm going to hit the A key and see if it's possible to sort of round the tops of her eyes. See, now that I can live with. That type of thing works. And actually, what makes it work even better, probably, it's a little extreme, would be for this one to be a blink. Interesting. This should be a blink. There should be a blink transition. So I'm just going to go like this. Get rid of those things. Let me see if that works. Yeah. Yeah, see, that works. That's why that's poetic. That's poetic, people. In other words, it's concise. You're packing a nice little change of attitude into a very short space. I like that. Now, here, we should be doing a slow out with the eyebrows. So here's the eyebrows in this position, kind of looking a little bit cranky. So here it should be just a little bit higher, not way up there. And we'll let them get to the high position again. It did it again. Get to the high position on the landing frame. Boom, bump. Boom, bump. Yep, that works. That works. It works. It works. Again, quoting, I believe, General Hathi from the Jungle Book. It works. It works. I have no recollection of what the heck he was talking about when he said that. But he did say it, okay? And, of course, I was in the wrong key when I just added that little tweak, so. And, just for the record, folks, here it would not be ridiculous to put in a blink here as well, actually. So I'm going to go G-E. B-E. So now we're in brush mode and turning the eraser off. So just a blink while she's listening. Okay. And then this, I'm seeing a definite... Okay, that works. Okay, so that looks like too much of a surprise. Can we get from here to here smoothly? Maybe. Maybe. Let's just check a couple things. First of all, I want to mod her characterization a tiny bit. Okay. So, first thing is, it's not going to work at all if her weight is all in the wrong place, because even if the expression transition works, it's still going to look funky. So I'm going to get rid of everything that's distracting me from the shift in weight. And we're going to do this again, Disney style. We're going to do it flipping. Okay, boom. Okay, so essentially her hand wouldn't move much. I honestly, I cannot, especially if you want to do traditional style animation and you want it to not like take forever. I really recommend this technique. Now you could do it with onion skins, But I find that the flipping back and forth is super, super useful. So it's like flip, flip, boom, flip, flip. Just get, now obviously if the poses that you're going from and to aren't that good, then it's not still going to look that great, obviously. I think I just said obviously twice. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to open her hand up a little bit. Her hand's starting to open. Like if you were kind of firmed up, and then it's the idea that all of a sudden somebody sort of touched your heart in some way, maybe your hands would actually open a bit. Okay. I'm going to go forward one. I'm going to actually make a duplicate here. Come on. Control drag. And here I want to just have a one frame wide-eyed thing a little bit. And I'm going to go on the top and the bottom. Just a little moment of surprise. And so I think it probably stands to reason that there'd also be a little bit of a this with the eyebrows. Okay, give that a crack. See what that looks like. Okay, this seems to happen too quickly, and it's a little bit extreme, but tough cookies. Sometimes that's what happens. So right now, for some stupid reason, there must be a selection. Yep, there was a selection. So just a quick surprise thing. Probably, I'm going to give it that 2 frames. Okay, and actually, I am also going to even give this a little bit more, and it might not work, but it might work. And so we will try. We will try. Why the heck not? Okay, I definitely like that better. And again, there's really too much motion going on here. What happens if we take the big surprise thing out? And then we add a lip sync. Of her saying, slay? Yeah, I mean, if she did that, then she would probably turn back to Fala. Boom. Shoom, shoom. Bah, right there. Okay, so I'll tell you what, to make this like stupidly simple for the moment, what I'll do is just flip this. And then let's go back here and see how badly our characterization has gotten off track. Ah, look at that. Look at that. Essentially the same pose, doesn't even look like the same girl. Well, that is an unforgivable sin. I hate to tell you. There's no excuse for that, but yet that's what I've done, and it happens kind of often. The excuse I give is that I'm so busy thinking about the emotion and the change in attitude and all that that she's gotten off character. You know, it does not look quite like Tianara anymore. It's ridiculous problem to have, and that's why if you do puppet style animation, you're going to tend to have those problems less, because you're going to draw your character one time in a 3/4 view, and everything you do is really just modifications of that single 3/4 view that's always on character. Here I think that in truth the beginning of it's actually off, because her chin is really not right. I'm just going to kind of cut it out a little bit and see if that helps. But yeah, her chin is too stubby. Too stubby. But yeah, I mean, come on. It's my biggest flaw as an animator, is allowing, and I'm sure everybody struggles with it, but is allowing my characters to drift off character. By gum and by golly, it happens. And if you do everything in a 3/4 view, it is easier, and it's, in a way, it's more fun, because most of what you want to express attitude wise can be accomplished quite well in a 3/4 view. You just have to be a little bit thoughtful about the acting. You just do. Okay, and this, you know, this is again a situation where a 1-frame blink probably makes sense. A 1-frame blink where you don't put a big black ink blot in the middle of your drawing, but where you actually erase the lines that you intended to erase. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's great. I mean, to me, that's really nice acting. If you really wanted to get extreme with it, you could actually put a little squash on the head turn, but probably it would make more sense to do it here. So that means, and this is probably not going to look good because it's just too many keys, but it would basically be a little turn like this, and then a little squash. Come on, little squash. Little down. And then I'd take this, put it here, and if you were going to do that, then you'd probably also put the blink here, so that when the person's flipping from one orientation to another, they're gonna typically close their eyes. See, that looks pretty good. Then they get to the new position. So it's a slow in. There's an anticipation in the wrong direction, and then the flip. So you're snapping to the flip, and then the eyes open. So that's basically a 4-frame transition that works really well. And I think the big takeaway about that for me is that in truth, that's only one drawing. It's just one drawing that got flipped and squished a little bit. So when you do that kind of stuff, you know, this is a pretty concise little bit of attitude change, where especially if you said, well, you know, let's go ahead and soften her expression even more with a little bit of so concise works for me. Right here, there, we're getting way out of whack here. So I'm gonna say, I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to get rid of that. I'm getting rid of it, people. I'm being bold. Bold, I tell you. Alright, and I think what I'm going to do, I think I'm going to take a break and come back to it and consider what I might want to do with that tween. But obviously our timing here is our time allotment is very, very bad. That tends to happen though sometimes when I'm working in the morning, as I tend to, I'm feeling a little more creative first thing in the morning, and I'm less all business, just trying to get the job done, and more, well, let's try this, let's try that, let's try this software, let's try that technique. And so I think I'd have to go back and look at the YouTube channel, but I think I tend to go off the rails more often in the morning than in the evening. Just because I monkey with the works too much. That's okay, that's all good. That's probably okay. But then this jolt up. Do we want a slow out? We could. The slow out would only be, it would just be just something. Just a little movement, a little something to get the audience smoothed into the next pose. See? And that actually works. That pretty much works. Okay, the only problem with it here is that there's like too many changes in it makes me all tense actually, because I've got so many changes in such a little span of time. There's a whole section in Richard Williams' book. It's the seminal tome on animation called The Animator Survival Kit, and he talks about the guy who hey front yardians, he talks about the guy that animates a guy yawning, and he draws all these keyframe poses of the guy yawning, and then this was back before everything was digital, and they play it back, and it all happens in 1 second. It's like this, in half a second actually, boop, done, the whole yawn. And so then he makes it longer, and he keeps stretching it out, and he adds more tweens, and he had to do it like a half a dozen times before he finally stretched it out long enough that it actually looked like a real yawn. The proclivity, as we're trying to figure out our poses and our action, to push way too much action into too small a time space is really strong. Like right there, it'd been even as I guess that's probably okay, mainly because Fala is done saying her line. If the two, all right, I'm gonna save this, but we're gonna look at what happens if we cheat in a big way and we go back to the most economical approach. The most economical approach would say, she's on character here, so why are we gonna monkey with that? If we can possibly keep this and use it, we should. Which means all this is gone. Boom, gone. And then this here, this transition would be nothing but a flip. Okay. And then we would have to go like this, just chop the body out in order to, and also chop out the little eyebrow thing there. Okay, so now we've effectively, and by the way, I saw a lot of this in, boy, what Disney movie was it? It was one of the not so great ones. I think it was actually the Black Cauldron. But anyway, what I noticed was you could tell that what the animators did was they drew a character and they got him right. You know, they got it on character. And then what they did was they put that drawing on the light table, and just rotated it a little bit and then traced in the new position. You could tell because it was like the outline of the character was completely rigid, but just some things inside their face changed. So it's like you can tell what they did there. Okay, this has got to go. And now the only little issue here is that she's a little small. So I'm going to have to just compensate a little bit there. Okay. So then this, I'll turn on the onion skins for this, but this slow out situation would be essentially rotate out a little bit and then probably stretch tall. Okay, so now the question then obviously becomes, I've completely redone the scene in a couple minutes, just taking the one good drawing and making some modifications to it. So okay, you could say, well, I mean, maybe we want to have one tween here. You could do one tween here, probably by just doing a slow out, or I should say a slow in, because we're tweening to the destination. Well, actually, that's not true. I guess we're actually doing a slow out. If you did both, I'll show you. If you did both, it would be this, and then you come back here and actually reverse that. You go in both directions. See? And that actually works. It's not like amazing, perfect Disney smooth kind of situation, but you know, for an anime type of property, it actually looks pretty appropriate to the kind of motion you'd expect to see. So she doesn't, in this version, we don't have her landing on her hand, but we could quite easily. If we were going to do it, though, I think what we'd probably want to do is go like this. I'll just erase that line out of there so it's not distracting us. But I think what we'd want to do is have it be more like this. This version took a tiny fraction of the period of time it took to do it with all the drawings. But by just taking a drawing that was definitely on character and doing mods to it, little flip, little adjustment, it's a stronger shot. So anyway, I'll go get Zuko up and you guys can weigh in and agree or disagree. Be right back. Crazy bird. So it looks like nobody really has much of an opinion. That's fine. I'm going to trust my gut on this one and not trust my drawings as much as I trust my sense of, I guess, just visual storytelling. The takeaway here for me is that doing the ink and paint on this and getting this colored in and turning it into a finished shot is going to be really fast because there's only really one drawing. It's just being flipped around, flipped and moved. So I think what I've done here today is demonstrated this isn't right for everybody, but for me, I don't think there's any question that trying to tell the story with a bunch of drawings, what I'm calling Disney style, versus just a real concise manipulation of the poses that are working is not only 10 times faster, but I think the final results are actually better. You know, and you could take it further if you want. I mean, you could do here. Call that her landing spot. So then you could actually do an overlapping action type situation here, where you take it just a little bit further. That's what, you know, your anticipation. Well, like here, we got this transition. So actually, here you could again do the same thing. You could add an anticipation, so she moves in the wrong direction. So now we're getting into, this will probably look better. Probably would look better at 12 frames a second, but so I wouldn't say that looks better. But there's definitely more of your sort of traditional animation motifs in there, because you've got the anticipation and then you've got the bounce back. I think it looks better if it's just a little more crisp. So that's my opinion. And here, what we could do is we could also bring back that expression that we had in the more complex shot that I think didn't even look as good. So we'll go boom. So then here we'll just make a duplicate and bring her mouth back to there. So now you've even got that added in. Now, this change for me is a little extreme. I'm not buying it, so I'm going to actually take this and just move it back to here. Oh yeah, that's way better. Yeah, way better. So by taking one drawing out, all of a sudden everything, the emotion and the attitude looks way better. This, I think this is 10 times better than what I had when I had all the drawings in there that took 2 hours to do. Now that might be because of my weakness, because I'm, you know, maybe I suck at drawing the character in a bunch of different poses and having them look the same. Because I definitely would say that's not my strong suit. Everybody's got their strengths and weaknesses, right? But I think the acting now is quite nice. And the thing is, if I worked in my normal way, what would have happened is I'd have drawn this drawing and I would have immediately inked and painted that. Immediately color that in. And then probably chop her head and her body into 2 pieces. And then just move some things around, patch the holes, and this whole shot would have been done in an hour-ish. Probably, actually. Because I don't find the acting takes that much experimentation. You know, it's not like I'm trying to figure out how to convey the attitude. What I'm trying to figure out is how to get... Because think about it. This is really an important takeaway for me. It's an important lesson. Conveying the attitude that I'm after, once she lands, you know, she moves around and then she lands. Does she have the right attitude? How hard is it to get her to express the right attitude in her expression? I don't find that particularly difficult. What's been difficult and what's taken up all the time is getting from attitude 1 to attitude 2. So you can do it the economical way or you can do it the expensive way. Pick your poison. I would be very conflicted if I didn't find that the expensive way not only takes longer, but it also looks worse. If it looked better, then it'd be like, ah, man, you know, I guess you got to take the time. But it really blows my mind how often it turns out that the fast way or the efficient way is kind of a lot better, actually. Not even a little bit. But of course, again, it's all opinion. You know, and I'll probably animate her arm so it falls out of frame right here, right? So this would be, so I'm just going to select this. I'm not going to stretch it or I'm not really going to do anything with it except just move it out of frame a little bit. A little more. And then gone completely. Okay, and that didn't quite work because of this. This is where actually onion skins would help because it's such a simple thing to just sort of position properly. Yeah, that worked. So there you go. Boom, boom, boom. I love that. I love it. Looks good, feels good. Okay. All right, I'm done. I'm going to take a break. What time is it? I've been live streaming for 2.5 hours. And I'm getting back in the groove. I can pretty much guarantee you... let's go ahead and cut it into the show, actually, while we're here. Might as well. So this is 368. Let's render it. I need to put this up on this screen so I can see it a little better. 368. Render that. And then we'll just cut it into the show and see how things are looking. See how it's looking, baby. So here are the poses. Yeah, what I should have done, if I would have just started with that drawing right there and then just built out the animation, I tell you guys, I just can't tell you strongly enough how, for me, it's all about the drawings, not the movement. Movement seems easy to me. But keeping a character on character is not easy. Not easy. Alright, what we got here? 368? Yeah. And we'll just put it in, and then we will just replace it with the colored version later. When we re-render it, it'll just update. So what we got to do here, pull that in there. Disable resampling. Yeah. TNR, listen to me. I know how you feel. Yeah. So, yeah, she says, I know how you feel. I was sold as a slave when I was a girl. Okay. So this seems to be a little too quick. That's too quick. So this actually is about it really is about 100 frame bit. I'm going to save that and just re-render, and then it'll just update in Vegas. As you guys will see, you will be stunned and amazed to see how it just updates. I was sold into slavery when I was just a girl. Yeah, not horrible, and this needs to stretch back out. Boom. Yeah. So there's your shot, and then we'll cut to the wide shot. So crazy. If I'd have done this my usual way, it would be inked and painted already, in which case I would have 10 seconds of show done in well, unless you count this lip sync, which I did. So we'd have had 17 seconds of show done between roughly 6 and 9 o'clock. Not too shabby.